Everybody ready? Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, again, I'm not here to aggravate people. If I'm answering a question, I'll wait in the back and I'll address everything all at the end, if that's what everybody prefers.
Well, just, you can
Either
finish
way.
the point that you were going to make.
My point was simply that I just wanted to be clear that, and not have the numbers be mischaracterized. According to the study, an apartment complex such as this puts 0.12, 1/10 of a child per household in the school district, as opposed to a single-family dwelling, which the average is 0.5, which is half a child, nearly 5 times as high. That's all. I just want to make sure the numbers were correct.
Okay. And you can ask him a question when you get up here if you want to make a statement there that you feel that it's not, you haven't got an explanation for it. You ask there, and you're going to get it. Okay? All right. Next gentleman here.
Good evening. My name is Christopher Noulis, Noulis. I reside at 20 Roosevelt Avenue in Wisconsin. Roosevelt Avenue. I bought my house here 12 years ago by myself. I bought a house here because I moved from a garden apartment in Patchogue. I lived in that garden apartment for about 7 years. As times got bad, the garden apartment complex the residents were moving out and there were many empty vacancies. The complex went Section 8 housing just to fill the place up so that the town or the owner of the complex could get rent. My concern is if times get bad and these residents have to move out and they're vacant, will the town not allow Section 8 housing?
The town doesn't have jurisdiction over Section 8.
And not only that, but the
Can he apply for it?
Part of the
He can
application
apply for it.
has a clause in it for what they call workforce housing, and Frank can maybe explain that to you better by himself.
Before I explain it, I just I know I've publicly disagreed with this particular act because I felt while it's well-intentioned, it's problematic to implement on a local level, and I've said that publicly. But the act was passed by the New York State Legislature, and it's called the Workforce Housing Act. And what it basically does is says that any development of more than 5 units, and it could be a subdivision or it could be a multifamily unit, condominium, apartment, co-op, is required now to include what is called a workforce housing component. And what that means is they are supposed to target units that must be affordable to people who earn within 130% of the median income. And we read those figures, some of those figures to you, that they apply to people earning incomes as a single person up to $97,000, a couple up to about $108,000, and so on and so forth. And what that law requires is that, and this would apply to this particular application, as well as, by the way, a single-family subdivision, is that 10% of the units must be set aside specifically for that income group. And what it means, it must be affordable to their particular income. And what that means statistically is that you take 1/3 of what that income group is, and so 97,000, let's say, is a single person. The unit total cost must be less than, let's say, $30,000 a year for whatever the total costs are. Now, that includes many factors: heat, mortgage, and whatever. So it's a complicated formula. As part of that law, what is mandatory now, it supersedes local zoning. Remember, this is a state law and they can do this, is that in order to achieve that extra density, they're allowed to increase the density 10% or the equivalent above the town zoning. So let's assume, for the sake of argument, that we allowed in a given area 10 units under normal zoning laws. We have to now allow them 11 units in that same particular area, and that's permissible, and it supersedes our local zoning. This is a law that was implemented about 2 years ago. We are still finding problems in implementing that. It's very complicated to implement, but that will be a fact if the town board decides to consider this or any other new residential subdivision. It's something that we have to apply to this. How it is going to be done, however, is going to be very, very difficult in this particular case. The reasoning is that chroma glass system that is being proposed by the applicant has a limitation based on gallonage of what could be applied here. And the problem that I face as a planner in trying to apply the workforce housing is that there's no way I could increase density on this particular site and meet the Suffolk County Health Department requirements. And so there's a contradiction here. So in other words, I'm limited in what I could do here and the density here by Suffolk County Health, and I'm told by the workforce housing to do something different from that. And so far, nobody's telling me how to do this. And by the way, Suffolk County, even though it's a county law, it's supported by New York State law. It's specific provision by New York State law. So we have a contradiction here. Regardless of that, somehow we have to deal with an issue of workforce housing on this. Okay?
I appreciate that, and thank you, but my concern is, on my block, there is a Section 8 house on my block. It's the worst house on my block. The homeowner is allowed to get away with it for some reason. I won't be seeing the complex. It's going to be around the corner from me. However, if you allow 10% of the complex to be Section 8 housing, is the homeowner...
It's not Section 8.
The 10% is not Section 8.
That's not Section 8.
No,
Workforce housing and Section 8 housing are two different things.
Two different things.
But if the owner is allowed to put Section 8 housing in there, if it gets approved, does he have to comply to town codes to keep that place looking nice?
Oh, yeah.
Because I remember I moved out of my complex because it went downhill very quickly. I mean, it just went to pot. That's what made me move here. I moved out of the Garland complex because it went Section 8 housing. I think everybody's concern is if Section 8 housing is allowed to be in that complex,
Okay, maybe I
does he
can
have to
answer that
keep-
question for you. Okay, Section 8 housing came about because basically most governments stopped building public housing. And the reason they stopped building public housing because it wasn't an effective way to handle housing cost. It cost the government too much money to build a public housing project. So what they did was they come up with rental subsidy programs, and that's what Section 8 is. Section 8 is a income restricted. It's much more severe than workforce housing. It's basically around 60% of the median income. It's a restricted income. Section 8, as Carl Yellen said, was noticing, is a federal program that subsidizes rents anywhere, whether it's single family or rental housing. So in other words, a family of four, if they get a stipulation, if they find a unit that meets the specs for whatever the agency that's applying for the Section 8, they could rent that. There are Section 8 throughout Wisconsin, throughout the entire town. So it's not specific to a particular unit. Could Section 8 possibly go into this place? The answer is yes. But they could go into any of the other apartments or any of the other single-family homes in Wisconsin as well.
You're right, but will the owner of the property be required to upkeep it to make it look when
Okay,
it's...
I can't answer for Patchogue or any other place, but we do have the Community Development Corporation run the Section 8 program in the town of Smithtown. All units are annually inspected pursuant to HUD. The reason I know that is because the other name of my department is Planning and Community Development, and we basically certify the units
Even
in the
private
town of
homes are inspected, Section 8 homes?
Yes, they are. Every home is inspected on an annualized basis. That is that's in our area. And if there is a home that you feel that has not been inspected that is a Section 8, let me know about it.
I'll do that.
But We do inspect, and I have and those are independent inspections, by the way, that we pay for. They're not, we pay inspectors to do that.
All right.
Okay?
But I do oppose the complex. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Ken McDonald, 7 Cobblestone Court. I agree with all of my neighbors about not wanting this in my backyard and not wanting this in Nesconset, specifically around home value. So just to give you some general statistics for you to consider in even giving a yay or nay to the town board. Just today, doing some simple research on Zillow and multiple listings, there's about 200 properties for sale in Nesconset and a small section of that for rent in Nesconset, ranging in price from $190,000 all the way up. So there actually is affordable housing here in Nesconset right now. If you want to get a mortgage for a $190,000 house, it's approximately $1,100 a month plus taxes. So it is actually very affordable to live in Nesconset. Now, we've lost about 20% property value in the past 5 years, approximately. It's going to vary based on where you live and exactly what your house looks like, et cetera, and how old it is, but approximately 20%. So I don't know what that's done to the tax base of Smithtown over that time. I know my taxes have gone down. They just went up a little bit. But I know that school programs have been cut from Nesconset schools in that time because the tax base has gone down. And the net effect that the lawyers have stated in a complex like this is nullified if it continues to lower the house values of the area. So they had said $166,000 on 5 acres. The average in Nesconset, rough math, for 1 acre is about $24,000 a year, based on what I know I'm paying and several other people have already stated. That's $120,000, so a net effect of $46,000 positive for a complex like that. But if Nesconset's house values go down another, say, 1% as a whole, because there's a flood of additional housing on the market, which is why Storybook Homes has not built the rest of this section over here since 2005, because housing is a commodity product. It is a product where supply and demand comes into effect. In 2007, 2008, as the housing market started hitting across the country, people started putting their homes up for sale. At one point in Wisconsin, there was something like 350 homes for sale at any given time, and the housing just went through the floor. So many people that maybe wanted to get out, older people maybe wanted to move to a more affordable place, were now stuck in a house that they thought was going to be a lot more. And so this will continue, this cycle will continue, adding 66 units to a complex, to Nesconset, that already has about 200 homes for sale at any given time, will add additional volume to the market, preventing those houses from being sold in a timely fashion. About 25% of those houses have been on the market for over 6 months. And probably if you look at the math even more, some of these houses have been on the market for 24 months or 12 months. A lot of people take them off the market for 30 days. So then prospective buyers can't see that the house has been on the market for more than 6 or 8 months, because that's how multiple listings works. So we need to consider the net effect of the tax base in terms of what is going to be available for the school district if the overall housing values continue to go down because of additional volume and the change in characteristics of the neighborhood. One other thing, if the value of that $190,000 house, which is there's a bunch of them, not a lot, but there's a bunch of them in terms of the size of the house and the size of the property, if those continue to go down, then the character of the neighborhood will definitely be affected, because people will now be able to afford it that wouldn't have normally been able to afford it, and will move in. So there'll be a indirect effect in terms of the characteristics. We'll have this property here, 66 units of transients coming in and out of Nesconset, and now people that wouldn't normally be able to live in Nesconset be able to afford a house in Nesconset because of this negative effect of a unit like this. So I want you to consider that. Okay, thank you. Thanks.
My name is Edward Kelly. I live at 4 Maiden Lane, Wisconsin. And the units that he wants to put in, the 66 units, comes out to be possibly 66 to 132 vehicles. Because most people, each one owns a vehicle. As we said, this is a driving community. Now, if you put houses along Lake Avenue, and they were saying about 7 or 8 curb cuts, there would be a whole of a lot less vehicles coming onto Lake Avenue than will be coming out of this complex of 66 units. That's one thing. Another thing is that I live on Maiden Lane, which backs onto this property, and if he goes and gets the variance changed for the units, and he has the other section, which, as far as I can recall, starting back in 2005 through the last time that he asked for an extension, was that it was supposed to be something like 37, or possibly it was 47, but I thought it was 37 homes. It was also going along Lake Avenue. Originally, we were told that it was not going to exit out into our street, Maiden Lane, that it was going to go off to Adams of Van Buren and onto Lake Avenue. That whole thing changed. Now, if he goes and gets the variance, and he's got another whole year to go and try and get this other property of 47 houses put in, and a year from now he says, oh, well, it's not going to work, I can't do it. I already have 66 units, how about extending it into this property? Then it's going to be backing onto my house.
No, that's not, he would have to take and reapply.
All right, yes, I understand that. That's what I'm
But
saying is,
that wouldn't guarantee he's going to get it.
let's face it, once you get a variance for your property, for part of your property, he owns property and Storybook owns property, one and the same. Now, a number of years ago, he started on Smithtown Boulevard. He swapped the Catholic Church land so that he could go and put in his community, which was going to be apartments that were going to be for seniors, low-cost housing, also for the Cleary School, with whatever would be necessary for them to rent them, regular houses, townhouses, a pool, a clubhouse, a walkway to the back of the Catholic Church. He started and then stopped. If he wants to put in houses like that, why doesn't he go back over there where he already had plans to go and do all of this? Why do we have to go and have this done in our neighborhood, which is all residential? Over there, they have the Cleary School. They have all the other businesses, Handy Pantry and that. If you want something that's going to be easier for people to walk to, that's where it should be. You can get the Handy Pantry for food. You have churches. You have access still to the shopping centers. He owns a shopping center too, and they look like hell. So if he builds a place here, what's going to happen to it? The one that he has that's on Smithtown Boulevard, Enchanted, I think it is, he finally went and they fixed that up, so it looks decent. But for many, many years, it was in disrepair. So I am totally 110,000% against him going and putting in a housing development of this sort. So I'm afraid that eventually it's going to go downhill. And then we're going to be stuck with an eyesore. You know, let's clean up Wisconsin. Let's get the plazas looking decent, all the shopping centers. That should be something that the whole town is looking to go and do, not to go and force apartments down our throats. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is James Catalano. I live at 3 Heritage Place South in Wisconsin. Thank you for the opportunity that we have tonight to speak to you. I appreciate that. I'm sure all of my neighbors feel the same way. Most of what this is about greed and investments that have not gone the way that they should have. None of us would have been here this evening if 10 years or so ago when this land was probably acquired, houses were selling for well over $800,000, generating taxes per property probably $15,000 to $16,000, making the investors happy, making the people of the town happy, because we were generating a lot of revenue and a lot of income. Obviously, that investment now has not been able to turn out the way that they had hoped. Otherwise, all of this property would have been filled with homes. So the investors now are looking for another way to generate revenue, all at the risk of lowering property taxes and property values. I've owned my home for 10 years, and I've refinanced twice within the last 5 years because of interest rates going down. And each of the time that I had to do that, I had to have my home value assessed. And during the course of the 5 years that I've done that, over those two assessments, the value has dropped over 5 years. So if you go ahead and add something like this to the community now, the values of those homes are going to even drop even further. So earlier you were saying that you had to present facts to the board to make either a good or a bad decision. The business that I work for looks at revenue that's generated, expenses. This is not going to generate a lot of revenue for the town by doing this. You want to generate revenue for town and address some of the concerns that this gentleman voiced earlier about housing that was affordable for young people, I would suggest a better proposal would be to put houses in this community that are priced along the same lines of the houses that are there now, $400,000 maybe to $550,000. Those houses are affordable by people that are your age, all right? Not everybody works 9 to 5 or after 9 to 5. I worked very hard. I worked 40 hours a week when I was going to college. I went from an MBA at night working full time to be able to afford to live in this community. So it is doable. It's very easy to make excuses that it's not doable when it is doable, okay? I apologize that I don't know your name, but one of the statements that you read earlier was talking about similar properties that were built that are adjacent, I believe you said, to 347 and Terry Road. You cannot compare 347 to Lake Avenue. Two totally different structures, two totally different ways that they handle traffic. So I see negatives as not a lot of revenue coming in, poor traffic flow, decreased property values. Those are the three things that I can see you bringing back to the board as negative impacts of this proposal. I've yet to hear one positive impact. So I'd recommend that you can take those things into consideration and bring that back to the board to make a good decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul Reimers, 17 Wilson Avenue, R-E-I-M-E-R-S. I'd like the board to consider saying no to this proposal. I've lived here all my life. I've been here 40 years. I've seen the community built up. I bought a home on Wilson Avenue next to a Storybook home, which was a rental. This home was in complete disarray since I was a little kid, up until I bought that house. Cop cars coming in and out of there. You couldn't even see the house because it was all the foliage and the woods. It was not kept up by Storybook homes at all. This is a sugar-coated plan, but I could see this complex being the same thing. Cop cars coming in and out. He talked about 1 or 2 people per apartment. We all know half this place is going to have 5, 6, 7 people living in that place. I mean, let's not sugarcoat this. I really suggest that the board consider strongly not to accept this plan. You know, he also did build at the peak of the market 2 new homes next to me after he finally took that home down after 30, 35 years, you know. And even the builders that were building it over there, he didn't even have a decency to put an outhouse for these guys, so they went all over my lawn. And this was built by Storybook Homes. So, you know, he may have built some nice homes in the area, but there's also another negative side to it. The house, you couldn't even see from my property. It was in that bad of disarray. I called over there several times, and nothing was done. So let's not sugarcoat this. Let's not say, well, you know, I was a young person. I was able to work hard here and buy a home in the area. You know, I grew up 2 blocks away from where I'm living now. So please do not allow him to build this in this area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. David Hungerford, 352 Lake Avenue South. I've been a homeowner in Wisconsin for about 4 to 5 years. I was 29 through hard work, my wife and I, working 40, 50 hours a week, achieved a dream of buying a home. So it can be done, and we bought at the top of the market. So my first question is, I'd like to know where the 2 entrances to the complex is.
This is Lake.
Mm-hmm.
This is one entrance. This is the other.
And where is Gaynor Road in relation to that? So it would be over here. Okay. I live on, what I heard about this plan is my wife and I got a certified letter in the mail saying that there's going to be a new potential garden-style apartments built 100 feet away from our property. So 352 Lake Avenue South is at the corner of Gaynor and Lake Avenue. So it's literally across the street. So it's not a backyard problem that some people have. It's a front yard problem for us. There's a stop sign that many of you probably know. I beg, if you're going to go and check out the property, come over around 5:30 any a weekday, 9 a.m. any weekday, and just watch how many cars blow through that stop sign. And you're going to add 99, at least on paper, 99 cars within 500 feet of that stop sign. There's a lot of children in the area. My wife and I don't have any children yet, but there's a lot of kids in our area, and there is no sidewalk, just so you know, on the opposite side where the side where Olson's is. So that would be the, I guess the, well, I'm going to turn west side. There's a sidewalk on the east side, but you're going to have to change that if you're going to be building in entrances to the property. So there's no sidewalk on the west side. So if anyone's on Lake Avenue, some people are talking about their kids going on the up and down the road, they're going to have no sidewalk, and the shoulder's about 1.5 feet long, wide, excuse me. So keep that in mind. And if you want revenue, I asked the Smithtown police to come on over any day, park outside our house, and you'll write about probably 30 tickets a day for people blowing through the stop sign. So, but the other question I have, though, is, because I'm trying to keep this technical and not too emotional, but you referenced 2,200 apartments in the town of Smithtown? I believe it's 2,100. Okay. Do we know the occupancy rate? Okay. I was just curious. There's 2,100 apartments in the town of Smithtown. If there's 2,100 of them all occupied and there's a waiting list for 500, okay, I kind of see why at least they're talking about it. Okay, well there you go. So I mean, I would like to see if there could be some type of study done and find out how many of those 2,200 apartments are actually occupied. Because again, this is a community issue, but to me this is a personal issue. So I don't live a few blocks away. I live across the street from this. Okay, so and I'm a financial advisor, and I know that most people are going to retire using whether the assets of their homes, one way or another. So I strongly, obviously, oppose this. And again, please, when you take a look at the property, come down during a busy time of the day, and I think you'll learn a lot more than what you might have been told so far from the planning side. So thank you.
Thank you.
Vincent Marino, 16 Heritage Place South in Wisconsin. What I've been hearing all night, I can't add any more to it. It's probably everything I wanted to say, but I did have a dream. In 1968, we came out here. We bought a piece of property, and we built our home, and we had the privacy as that zone was set up for. My kids are now in their 50s and 40s. My dream has come true. Everything is beautiful the way it was geared. And with this project coming up, I think it's going to change it. And all I'd like to see is these people's dreams come true, too. That's what I like to say.
Thank you.
Hi, Dennis Lascala, 15 Heritage Place South, Wisconsin. Because like we stated before, everyone's very passionate about this issue, as you can tell. This is something that we feel is just not going to fit the fabric of our area. It was stated in the social echo factors in the form that was sent out, because I did go down to the planning board. I did take a look at the petition and so forth. It was stated there on in the social echo factors that this project is consistent with the neighborhood use. It's not. With single-family dwellings, has been reiterated throughout the whole night. Right? We're not garden apartments. Also, it was stated on Section 8 of that area where they are putting down future considerations to expand on this. So once this gets approved, there's nothing stopping them to continue this project. And as we can see right there, just I guess that would be going east. There's a nice, take out 3 sections and you can continue and expand on it. So it's already in the socioeconomic factors, okay? The saying it's no major impact or adverse impact to the community. I think right here shows you that there's going to be one. Lake Avenue is the north-south corridor for the fire trucks. In Wisconsin, there's a fire truck right there. There's, as we know, the fire station north on Lake Avenue. That's the corridor that they're going to be taking up and down there. Just the fact that we're going to, ooh, hello. So just the fact that we're going to be increasing waste management on a more consistent basis, the noise level, the factors there. You know, where are they going to put all the waste sections? Well, it's probably going to be put, they're going to see some little notches, but that's going to be a big factor, especially for that gentleman who just was up here speaking. The fact that they'll be going there, they're going to be running their machines probably about 45 minutes or so, clearing out the garbage a couple of times a week, then coming on out, back onto Lake Avenue. You know, as opposed to all the moving trucks. No, including all the moving trucks that are going to be going up and down on these transient individuals that are probably going to be staying there for, you know, a year, maybe a year and a half. You know, also to say that there's going to be absolutely no kids, which I have no problem having kids, but to state that there's going to be no kids, I don't know, we live in America, be fruitful and multiply and so forth. How do you know there's not going to be any children that are going to be in that section? You know, a one-bedroom, 750 square foot apartment is not in the fabric of our neighborhood and of our area. And this is something that I feel that Wisconsin has done their job for Smithtown. We've had plenty of apartments and have plenty of apartments in our area. Off of 347. They're building the new apartment complex, assisted living or not, it's still an apartment complex, or whatever you want to call it, where the Knights of Columbus Hall is going to be. All the way down Smithtown Boulevard by Shepherd Lane. They're going to be constructing new apartments by Michelle Cleaners and so forth. You know, we've done our share. So as we stated before, let's pass it along to the other hamlets and other towns up in Smithtown, because we've had our fill. We need to keep our community thriving, and this, I feel, is going to give us a step back. And again, thank you very much for your time in hearing us, but I think this is going to be a very, very big issue once it comes. And thank you.
Thank you. What? This guy, yeah, he was up once.
My name is Mike
Sir,
Vogel.
Could you let the other people that haven't spoken yet speak first there, and then you can come back again, all right?
I thought we had a line.
My name is Dennis Bricker. I'm on 82 Midwood Avenue, Wisconsin, New York. B as in boy, R-I-C-K-E-R. I don't think I'm going to say anything new, but I just have a question. You talk about the $166,000 revenue base that you're going to generate for the town. Was there a comparison done between the revenue base that we're giving up in the commercial and single-family zoning that we're losing in that?
I can speak to just on average, if you have and again, rough numbers, but 5 acres would generally generate 10 single-family plots at a half acre apiece. I think
some of this is commercial.
let me finish. I'll address both, if you don't mind. Okay. If we had 10 residential plots, and I believe one of the gentlemen who was up before kind of went through this analysis and was absolutely correct about it. If you generated 10 residential plots at roughly $12,000, $10,000 to $12,000 a lot, you're now up to a revenue base of approximately $120,000 on those 10 lots, which would then show that this project would actually be plus $40,000. To answer your question, we did not get an opinion as to the commercial base, but I will, you know, I'm not going to pretend if this were commercially used property, it would of course generate a higher tax revenue, but that would come with the problems that are innate to commercial development too. So.
Okay, thank you. I just want to point out, I believe that commercial real estate taxes are significantly higher, and I believe that the $12,000 to $13,000 real estate on my home is absolutely correct. But I know people that had new houses built in the area and are paying closer to $20,000 for their properties on half-acre zoning. So I believe that we're off when saying that I think we're going to give up a tax base by allowing this to happen. And another point is, I don't know how you police no children when I go to these hotel complex on 347 west of Southern Boulevard, and you have in a 200 square foot hotel room, you could have as many as, I've seen as many as 5 children living there, sleeping on the floor and sleeping in beds. How do we prevent that from happening? And then what is that impact if that does happen? We're talking about a septic system that can, let's say, 99 people, for one for each parking spot, and I believe that's probably not enough. We're building a septic system that will be able to accommodate 99 people. But what happens if we're not policing this and we have these extra people living in these units? We're now overburdening the septic system that it can't meet the capacity because we're putting too much gallonage into the system. Thank you very much.
Mike D'Elia. I live on 9 Van Buren Court, just north of this construction, possible construction. For health reasons, I'm out at 5:30 every morning, or almost every morning. And I walk the streets. I walk maybe 2 miles every morning before I go to work. On the weekends, I probably walk 4 miles. Getting up at 5:30 in the morning, I see things that most people don't see. Does anybody realize that we have foxes living in the neighborhood? We have 2 foxes, and I've seen them, okay? They live on that property, okay? Now, I don't expect that we can't build because we have foxes. But we also have owls in the neighborhood. I don't know if anybody's seen those, okay? They live in there as well. So I'm kind of protesting a little bit, and I realize, you know, the world doesn't stop. But we need to consider, you know, environmental impacts of animals and whatnot. Now, don't get me wrong, I've only seen 2 foxes in my walks, and I've only seen several owls. But, you know, I also think they're important too, and that's part of our neighborhood as well. Another question I want to ask is, if you're only allowed to build 8 houses on the property, if it was regular houses with half-acre property, and you'd got $10,000, $12,000 in taxes, and you were able to achieve $120,000, so you're $40,000 short of, you know, the tax revenue for the town. I'm asking the board, is it really worth $40,000 in extra taxes to have all of us miserable? Is that really what you guys want to do? For $40,000, you're going to put us through all this misery? You guys should think about that, because I think it's unacceptable. Thanks.
Thank you.
My name is Mike Vogel. I live at 3 Maiden Lane, Wisconsin. I started this off tonight, and I've been listening and taking some notes. Number 1, Section 8. Everybody seems to be worried about Section 8. Don't build it. You won't have to worry about Section 8. You're talking about 99 spaces for cars. You're going to have 66 units. That'll probably be occupied by 2 people. That's 132 cars without guests. Number of children, they can't stop people from renting an apartment that has 2 kids. And yeah, it's a tight fit, 750 people, but we're in tight times right now. So people double up. And that means you're going to have kids dropped right into the school system. Nobody said anything about garbage pickup. We pay for that. Every one of us pay for that. How will it be handled? Is that going to come out of that $1,200 rent also? You got $2,500 a year coming out plus garbage pickup? Doesn't seem like a money-making opportunity there. And in closing, the last thing I want to say is everybody here, if they would all stand up for everybody that's against this project, stand up. Show them that we don't want this. Stand up. Who's ever against it? Gee, it's unanimous. Does that mean anything? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Maloney, 59 Bob Ann Drive. I, like Mr. Reese, grew up in Smithtown, went to Smithtown schools, went Smithtown East, moved away. I lived in Garden Apartment, Mineola. To say it's one person, and I live in a two-bedroom apartment, and there were bunches of one-bedroom apartments. To say it's going to be 1 or 1.3 people per apartment is absurd. The number of people living in apartments, people throwing on mattresses in a tough economy, day laborers. You drive past Ace Hardware in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. People are needed. Now, Mr. Tenzione, was it the Long Island Housing Partnership?
Long Island Housing Partnership did the study, yes.
Excellent. A company whose board of directors has banks and builders on it. And I, for one, find it shocking that they would do a study in favor and how good it is to have this built in our community.
Except that it's not true.
Oh, yes, it
Board
is.
of Directors, it's
Wait a minute, no debate,
It's
please.
why I actually did research while listening.
But I don't want a debate between you and the
Right,
gentleman,
but
all right?
Mark
You got a question,
No,
give the
wait,
question.
I'm not making a question. I'm making a statement. Mark Twain, over 100 years ago, pointed out the use of statistics. Kinds of lies. Lies, damn lies, statistics. I also am an attorney. I use statistics to prove points. Mr. Hornberger knew what he was doing. He hired a good attorney to try to convince this board here. He knew what he was doing. He knew he had an untenable position, a position that was extremely unpopular. Mr. Rourke did an excellent job explaining. It was zoned correctly. Single-family houses. That's what he bought. He made a choice. This is what he bought. Stick with your choice. The consequence is his investors aren't getting high enough profit. How are we going to get a profit? A money grab. This is exactly what this is. We're going to get every dollar we can. How? You heard him. People stand up. Why are people so passionate about this? Listen, you're part of the community. Listen to your own community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Is that everybody? Present comments here? Come on up to and just give your name and address again so that we have it clear.
Scala, 15 Heritage Place South. What is the height of the asphalt unit, and is that within town code? Because from what I understand, the unit that's going up on, let's see, it's, I'm sorry for blanking out here, Knights of Columbus, that's a little bit higher than under
You mean
town
down
code.
by
and it's
Shepherd?
within-
Down by Shepherd Lane?
No, just north of 347 on Lake. Yeah.
I could answer that.
So I'm out of curiosity.
Okay, the height requirement for the town is 35 feet, and this would probably make it. Just as a question, on the one on, it's Amber Court is the one that's being built on Lake Avenue. We did not want them to put a flat roof on the building. If they left it as a flat roof, they don't need a variance for height. We want it to be more residential, so we asked them to put a gabled roof on the building, and that's why they needed the variance, not because of the structure itself. So they could build a structure within 35 feet. It's just that we felt it would look too institutional. So I'm taking responsibility for that.
Council.
Mr. Chairman, given the hour, I'll be very, very brief, I promise. I did mention that I had multiple copies of the study, which I'd like to hand up and have become part of the record. I also do have a copy of the traffic report, which was completed by Mo Ryan Engineering, which I'd like to hand up and have become part of the record, so that the residents will have it available if they'd like to come and see any of these documents to perhaps look at the position that I've taken and see some of the documentation. Despite what the feeling in the room may or may not be, I think the applicant and myself have been as forthcoming as any applicant should be in a situation like this. We understand people are uncomfortable. I don't believe we came here trying to trick or hide anything. I just wanted to address one or two points real quickly. We keep hearing Section 8, Section 8, Section 8. Section 8 can be applied for and gotten in any one of your homes, although we know that you will not do it. This builder has another complex. I invite you to go over and look at that. I heard a lot of comments tonight about parking. The 99 spaces, and the commissioner can correct me, I believe is fully conforming to the Smithtown code. The 1.5 per apartment is not a number that we made up. It's the number that the town, it's compliant with the town code. So if you have an issue with that number, we respect that, but respectfully, we are complying in every way as far as parking. One of the other things that we need to consider about parking is the more paving we do, the more parking spaces we get. But the more paving we do, the less green we have on a project if green is something that people think is desirable. We've gone over and over about the number of children in the school district. I want to repeat once again, because I'm still hearing comments about 1.2 children. It is not 1.2 children. It is 0.12, 1/10 of a child. I just want to be clear about that. The other thing is we talked a little bit, and the other attorney made an excellent, and a couple people made some very good points about the revenue generation. But it's not just about revenue generation. You have to also take into account expense whenever you're doing something financial. A single-family home, one gentleman made the point, and it was a very passionate point, that you know, that you folks were maybe perhaps going to be sold out for the sake of $40,000. You know, we could very easily make the argument that it's $40,000 if you're just doing revenue versus revenue. However we spin this, and I don't want to, I hope I haven't presented it as much of a spin as you seem to think it is. It would stand to reason that a three-bedroom home would clearly generate more children in the school district than a 750 square foot apartment. I don't think any one of you would debate that, and I hope not. So when we're talking about that $40,000 difference, we're not talking about the additional expense to take care of those 1 or 2 children that would surely be generated by a three-bedroom home. Lastly, the last point I just wanted to address is a minor one, but you know, complexes such as this do not generate any garbage expense because it's picked up by a private carter, so it will not come out of the taxes. So I want to thank everybody for their input, despite how we feel about these things. These are public hearings. We do come here to find out information. I can assure you that Mr. Hornberger is here and has listened very carefully to everything you have to say. And if there's you know, any contact that you'd like to have, we'd be available to listen to what you have to say.
One more speaker here, yes.
I just want to respond to the gentleman about the tax part of it. Michael Delia, D-E-L-I-A, live at 9 Van Buren Court. If you're building a house, then you're going to get the amount of taxes to cover the school expense. If you have children, you're going to be paying the taxes. Now, if they indicate that it's 0.12 of a person per each apartment, well, you know, we all don't agree with that, but numbers are numbers. The point I'm trying to make here is if it's a house and the person is paying $12,000, $15,000, much of those taxes are for school, and they're paying for the child's school. So I don't think a person paying $2,500 per year is going to cover very much in school expenses. So if there's any children, they're not going to be covering it.
Thank you. I want to thank you for, I thought it was very orderly. I know it's a difficult night, and I know that there's a lot of concern. But I want to thank you for the way that you presented yourself. It was very professional. Everybody had a way of what they were trying to express that was going to be very helpful to the board. If there's no more questions, yes, sir? We're going to do an on-site first, okay? And then we'll make a decision after the on-site of what our recommendation will
We'll
be.
come back
okay?
on our calendar for a decision.
It'll come back on the calendar for the decision.
Won't be a hearing, but
Will be a
it'll
hearing,
be
but
on the calendar.
It'll be here.
You can come and hear, be
You can
here,
come if you want to come to
but
the.
it's not going to go through this whole process again when people get up and speak.
Just stay in contact. If you want to have it, if you want to hear that hearing, you stay in contact with the planning department's office, and they'll definitely there. If you've got a spokesman, they'll definitely get back in touch with you to tell you there when we're going to make a decision. All right? Okay? All right. All right. Now, members of the board, any
Is he
questions?
concluded?
Just for the attorney here, any questions from the board there to the attorney?
I had a couple of questions. Sure. I thought I heard you say in response to the gentleman over here that you were not aware of the general occupancy rate for the town of Smithtown in terms of the total apartments, 21 or 2,200 apartments. But did you have a real estate expert here? You don't, or you do?
We do not have a real estate expert
Okay.
here tonight.
Well, would maybe planning or you be aware of any occupancy rates with respect to the apartment complexes that are close in proximity to this proposal?
The county keeps numbers on those, and what I'll do is I'll ask Elaine Leonard on my staff to give the board the latest numbers that we have.
Okay, thank you.
All
That's
right. A motion there for an onsite.
In the matter of Storybook Homes, 2012-04, motion to adjourn for an on-site inspection.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We thank you very much.
That's it, right?
Yep.
Motion to adjourn? Or just
Wait a minute, wait till we see what we got here,
we're
that's
done.
it. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll just pass them out.
Well, I thought.